Hi everyone, it's TanyaMFK here with your 52 Weeks of Momentum lesson recap. We are in week 33. Don't worry, you have not time warped. We did not have a week 32. Everyone was on a break. So your lesson was to relax and keep tracking and doing the things that you were doing. But now we're in week 33, right? So here we are. If this is your first time, welcome. I am Tanya Marie Figueres-Kreisinger, more easily known as TanyaMFK. I am a member of Benjamin Hardy's 52 Weeks of Momentum course, and I come here every week just teaching about what I'm learning, what I'm going through, what I'm taking from this, and all the awesome things that are coming out of being part of this group. This is in no way a substitute for the actual course. Obviously, with the most, reason there's, I'm not Benjamin Hardy, right? Of course, there's tons of other awesome things that we get from being in the group. But if you missed the sign up, then at least you can tag along here and you'll remember to sign up next year, right? It's kind of part of it. So I'm really, really excited about the lesson that we have today. And it really dives into kind of some heavy stuff, right, in a way, but I'm trying to make it as simple as possible because that's the only way I understand it anyway, okay? So we are reading, it's not The Body Keeps Score. We are reading, it's another book we have coming on there, but it is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. If you have not read that book, grab that book. It is super, super awesome. And I mean, that title alone, right? Like Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Like that I think that's just full of enough stuff to just hear that and be like, whoa, that's going to be heavy. Like in a good way, right? But heavy. Like, cause there are things that, some habits and some things about like where we're stuck in who we see ourselves are that we need to break those habits, right? So the big thing that Benjamin Hardy dived into for this particular lesson was that our body is our subconscious. Right? And you're like, wait, what? How's that work? Your body is our subconscious, right? Our body actually retains a lot of these memories and a lot of these things, the things that we, we refer to as our subconscious. And I think most of us, or if you're like me, just, I'm very visual. So I picture it in my head, right? I kind of have like my brain functions here and the subconscious is like back here somewhere, right? It's like the backseat driver. But it's not exactly really how it works. And there's a lot of science behind this that shows that it's actually our body, right? It's very physical in a lot of ways. So one of the things that you will notice as you're in this group, as you're making these kind of changes in your life, is that there will be big emotional reactions. Now, some of you may have experienced that in certain ways in your life. Quitting smoking, right? There's an emotional reaction attached to that. Yes, there's a physical addiction, but if you actually read, which we read this year as a group, we actually read Alan Carr's The Easy Way to Quit Smoking, whether you smoked or not, right? We read this book, and that actually talks about how the actual physical addiction part is a very short-lived thing. The rest of it is very mental and memory, and there's a big emotional reaction that happens when people quit smoking. Same could go for giving up coffee. Same could go for giving up cheesecake, right? Or even just like adjusting a diet lifestyle, right? There's emotional reactions that happen because of that. And it's because our brains are connected to our past. And even if that past was yesterday. So our bodies become used to seeing things a certain way and feeling a certain way about them. So much that we don't even necessarily have to think about how we feel about them anymore. Things just kind of start to happen automatically. And a way that you can see this happen really easily in everyday life, I think one is you've seen the subconscious in action just if you've ever driven home and you drove, right? You drove and you probably weren't thinking, okay, here's, gas on the pedal, brake, like steering, like you just did it, right? And the other part sometimes, or I'm sure a lot of this has happened for a lot of us, is you don't even remember driving home, which sounds really bad when you say it that way. But like you just kind of get home, you're like, oh crap, we're already here, right? Like you weren't thinking left turn, right turn, because your subconscious has done this so much that your body also can do it. Now, another way we see this happen a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you, are guilty of this, is you will pick up your phone. You'll start scrolling. You'll do this check here, liking that, maybe reading some articles, something like that. And 15 minutes into it, you're like, holy crap, like, what am I doing? I have stuff to do, right? Like you didn't consciously say, I'm going to pick up my phone and do this. Now, there are times that we do that. Absolutely. But there are plenty of times where you don't, because the body remembers this action. This body is seeking the chemical reaction that's actually happens when we go on social media. And for a lot of people, that's dopamine, right? It creates this like feeling of belonging, of, whatever it is, whatever the things are that you do when you go on social media. I think it's different for a lot of people, but there's a chemical reaction and our body remembers that, and our body will go towards that because we've done it so much that we no longer really need our mind. Our body actually becomes better at it than we are. Right? Isn't that crazy? Like, that's some crazy stuff. That's the subconscious at work. And our bodies can become addicted to those chemical reactions, right? That's a whole other thing that Benjamin Hardy goes into a lot. So we as people, we are seeking emotions that feel good, right? We're seeking emotions. Most of us we avoid the awkward conversation. We don't run into, things that feel uncomfortable, right? We're not like, yeah, let me handle that right away, right? It's obvious. I think it's easy enough for all of us to be like, yeah, duh. Because of that, even things that are new or unpredictable, we will also tend to avoid because we don't know what to expect, and the emotional state of that, we don't know what to expect. It's unpredictable. So it also keeps us from a lot of growth and doing a lot of, having new experiences, because our body is constantly seeking this like comfort zone, right? We don't want to be out of our comfort zone. Right? That's why it's called a comfort zone, right? It's comfy there, but it doesn't mean it can't be comfy somewhere else. We're just like, oh, we don't know. So our body's like, we don't want to. And then our body's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So we're all kind of, we have the extra push from our subconscious being like, yeah, let's not do that. So one of the things, let me see, I have some notes here, says, we need to be in control of our body. Our body shouldn't be controlling us, right? Like, hello, that's pretty clear. I think that's pretty simple to understand, right? And for most of us, the subconscious is winning. It is taking over the conscious. It's all happening back here. We're working on autopilot. We're doing things on autopilot. We're continuing to do the same things because that's the way it is. That's the way it's been. And we're functioning based on our past. We're functioning based on what it's always been, and we're not consciously making effort to do it differently or move forward in a different way, right? That's the general situation. Now, if you've been following along with 52 weeks of momentum, we're now 8 months in. It's been the opposite, right? This whole thing has been about disrupting your everything and really taking an active look at what you want, who you want to be, who you want to become, and being very aware and conscious of all of those choices, jumping into change, facing resistance, like all of those things, right? But it's also easy for us to fall right back into it, right? It's easy for us to fall back into those old habits, those old thoughts, those old patterns, or even as we get to a certain level, maybe you've been moving along, you're following along with the group or whatnot, and you're like, yeah, I get here. But even there, we can kind of get stuck even there, right? And that next step gets hard too, right? So every place, it's not like you just win it, learn it, and you're like, that's it. Like, I'll never get stagnant again. Like, we can always end up in a little plateau, right? So it's so good for us to come back, remember these things, understand the power of our subconscious, and give ourselves a quick check-in. So one of the things that Benjamin Hardy mentioned, actually had us required to do, which I will, require for those of you who are tag along in our actual accountability group, and for those of you just catching it and watching it, watch this video. It's Joe Dispenza, go figure, same writer of the book. It's a 12-minute video with, I forget his name right now, but it's an impact theory. There's a guy, he runs a blog. He's really, really great. Sorry, I don't remember your name, guy, but you are awesome. But it's called Impact Theory, and Joe Dispenza was on there, and he gives a 12-minute talk about kind of this whole situation, this whole concept. He obviously going to explain it a lot more eloquently, clear and thorough than I am. So go check it out. It's worth the 12 minutes. Honestly, I watch almost everything on like 1.5, 2 time, like YouTube's, because I'm just like, I don't have time for this. I watched normal speed for this one because they were so good. It's very simple, but it's also a lot of like aha moments, like constant aha, oh wow, yeah. So like you kind of need it to come in slowly. So rarely, if ever, have I recommended watching something on regular time. This one, I did it, right? And if you hear how fast I go, like I even watched this one slow. Okay, so there are a few things I wanted to point out that I thought were amazing in this 12-minute video. and just in case you're stubborn and you're like, I don't want to watch it, or if maybe you just need to get excited about why watching a 12-minute video. So he says, if you are living in the present, in the past, then it will be your predictable future. You're like, what? If you're living the present in the past, so you're here now, but everything's based on like what's happened before, right? And most things are, right? Our brain lives in the past, but it's in memory, right? Everything that we wake up to the next day is in memory. Sometimes we're waking up thinking about the problems or the things that happened yesterday, the things that had defined us and make us who we are at this moment happened in the past, right? So if we are not conscious of that, if we are not aware to like constantly push towards new experiences and new things, then by default, we are going to live in our past. And if you stay there, it will be your predictable future. Like, I thought this was such a powerful thing. I just thought it was amazing. Like, yeah, of course you're going to be like that. And we've talked about this, I think, a lot through the group where, you know, they show that most personalities get like frozen at like 35 and 40. People get stuck in routines. You know, they don't seek new experiences. And because most people think that's the norm, it's easy to look around and be like, well, yeah, of course, that's normal. That's the way it should be, right? That's the way it should be. So I love this line in the thing. That was amazing. I think he further explains, if we're functioning in memories and the emotional connection to those memories, we will always be in the past and we will live and function the same way, right? Much more eloquent way to say what I was just saying. Also says we need to focus on new experiences. How do we do it differently? Make a new choice. And as soon as you go do that, he says, get ready because it's going to feel uncomfortable. And again, I love that too. He's like, look, it's not like make new choices and, you know, butterflies and, you know, music and Snow White scenes are going to happen. You're like, oh, you know, birds are carrying your cape. That's not happening. Okay. That's not it. It's going to feel uncomfortable. Like we said, it's new. It's different. You're going to doubt it. You're going to have resistance because your subconscious is focusing, is living in memory. So you have to actively pursue, actively set the stage, actively do these things to make it different. That is why, and we'll be going into this a little more, but that is why these morning routines and setting the frame for your day is so flippin' important, right? It is so much bigger than a cute little checklist or being like, look how nice my morning is. Like, not that I'm, you know, everyone's doing that, but it's easy to kind of do that too and be like, oh, pat on the back. I did the meditation and I look really pretty on paper or whatever. This is so much bigger than that, right? It is so we don't live a predictable future. It is so we continue to mold and become people and live a life that we have consciously made a choice to live and to do, to be, do, have. Right. So another thing that I absolutely 1,000,000% loved. Yes, that is a scientific percentage. This hits home for me in a huge way. And it says most wait for changes or to get pushed into get pushed into something, like get pushed into change with like tragedy or diagnosis. And this is really true, right? Like I, you know, if you've been following along or anything like that, you've learned in my chatting and things here that I lost my husband to cancer when I was 25 years old. And, you know, there are so many things that, that pushed me into. And I was so young. So I think maybe I, you know, perhaps was in a better position to handle that and take on all those changes and really embrace what was going on with me at the time. But I'm going to say a few things here. I see, I know later on, like fast forward maybe 8 years to maybe 10 years, something like that after that time, I almost felt kind of stuck again. Like I had lost this momentum, this drive. And it was almost like, well, you know, if there was another tragedy that happened, you know, it like that would help, right? I mean, it's definitely wasn't a full conscious thought, but it was like you lose that push, right? You need something that just like, I mean, that invigorates you in the weirdest way. Like it pushes you to whole different thought processes when you go through something like that, right? There was no turning back. There was no going back to old ways because I had an inspiration from such a tragic situation to change my life, right? And at the same time, I also saw, you know, people I say it hits home for me because I also see it with other people that they can have these changes. They see the life that I live and go, wow, I wish I could do something like that. If you don't follow me on Instagram, I think that, I travel a lot. I do all these things. And I have a lot of people say they live vicariously through me. And it's a really hard space for me because I don't want, it's nice. I mean, I'm glad they enjoy the feed and see those things, but I don't want them to live vicariously. I want them to live, and I want them to see that they can do it. And it doesn't take something like that to make it happen. It doesn't take the tragedy. It doesn't take losing your job to put you into a place to start a business, right? It doesn't take, a car accident to make you get a new car, right? Like I'm going to try to take it down like a little smaller steps, right? So it's not such a big death. Let's take it to smaller situations where, maybe you're like, one day you can do it now. Yes, there is a way. There is a conscious choice to be made. All right, so I went on a totally different tangent than I was planning on going on with that. But what he said next, this is the most beautiful part that I love. He says, if we can learn to change in a state of pain and suffering, then we can definitely learn to change in a state of joy and inspiration. Right? Like, hello. So if we can go through and have these just amazing life changes and aha moments in such terrible, if you will, terrible circumstances, how much more can we do? And how much more beautiful the journey if we choose to do it during our times of joy and inspiration? I don't know that I can say anything else other than that. Like that just, I've been through this. I've lived through this, right? So that wasn't a fully new concept to me, but it was like, wow, this is what I can say to people now. Like, go watch this video, listen to this, because that's just so profound. That's so profound to me and the options that you have in life, right? You don't need to wait for the diagnosis to push you into health, right? Like, is that really going to be the only motivation? If you want something different, you do have a choice now. So don't be pushed. Create a life by design now. That's it for this lesson. It was definitely going to be a little shorter, but I went on a tangent. But if you've been following along, then you kind of know that's what I do. So deal with it. I don't know about you, but all of these things, they weren't completely new concepts for me, but I needed to hear them again. It reminds us of the power that we have to create the life that we want. It reminds me of the power of awareness. The more that we know and are looking to pay attention, how much we can change our lives, how much we can direct where we go, how we go, and what we become. And that we really are the authors of this life, of this book, right? So if you like this, click that subscribe button. You'll get notified when our next lesson comes up. And if you are trying to build a business, if you are an entrepreneur and you want to be the best human you can be while creating a business that is amazing, kicks ass, and feels good, then definitely follow me at TanyaMFK on Facebook and Instagram. These are the kind of things we do and deal with. We want to be a good, human. We want to be the best human we can be. And we also want to live this life by design, not just personal, but for business, right? So that's what we focus on. Lots of action. So go over there, check us out. Thanks so much for hanging out, and I'll see you next week. Bye.